I'm Liz Hirschnoff-Tully, and welcome to Capital Coffee Connection. I am really excited to have an amazing guest today, an elected leader, and the purpose of this conversation is going to be talking about heart and humanity. We're not talking politics and policy, because what I've learned is that so many folks look around and they just say, oh, she's just a politician, she's just a cutout, you know, it's already planned, everything's planned. This is not planned. You don't know the questions, but all the questions are going to really be about the heart, the humanity, who you are. Because I think that once we can have people understand that you have special stories, that you're an interesting person, and that you really are passionate about the work you're doing, people will start to understand that we actually have a lot in common. And I think about like the human genome, which basically says that all people on the earth, 8 billion plus, are 99.6% the same. So the question is, what's the difference? It's less than 0.5%. What's the difference between people? And maybe we celebrate those differences opposed to like finding ways to attack each other. So I say that in introduction because I want people to understand that we're not going to talk about the craziness. We're going to really talk about the beautiful things. Our guest today is Congresswoman Hillary Scholten, and said it right.
You did.
Good. And you represent Michigan's 3rd Congressional District.
That's right.
And to give people an idea of what towns, what areas that is, you represent Grand Rapids, Muskegon, and Grand Haven.
That's right.
And what's great is that you are really a diverse area. You have suburbs, you have farmlands, and you have beautiful miles of actually Michigan shoreland.
Yeah, that's right.
So what I did, because I was kind of geeking out on this, was to learn a little bit more about you and at the same time really learn about Grand Rapids, because your family's been there for 4 generations,
right.
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
And Grand Rapids has some really fun facts.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share them, and if you want to jump in, please do.
Okay.
And then we'll introduce you formally, and we'll get really down to business.
All right, sounds good.
But Grand Rapids sits along the Grand River, and it flows into Lake Michigan. And the river was famous for the mile-long, 300-yard wide, 10 to 15-foot tall rapids, and that's how Grand Rapids got its name.
That's right.
Very cool.
That's right. Yeah.
Pretty boring, basic, right? And that
We think it's exciting.
and then like a boring, like, and the name was so easy to come up with.
Right.
No, rapids are very exciting.
Yes.
And then that Grand Rapids is famous for like a manufacturing of furniture. You have many and very top line manufacturers that for many years have been in Grand Rapids.
That's right.
And then I love this one, that in 2012-13 it became called Beer City.
Yep.
Because you have over 40 craft breweries within 30-minute drive, and they all have, according to what I read, delicious beer.
They're excellent.
So I did a little bit of that, and then what I wanted to also share with everyone before we start talking is that actually you made some pretty incredible history. Because while we aren't talking about politics and policy, you're a woman leader, and you got into this just recently in terms of like on a national level.
That's right.
And you actually flipped a 50-year stronghold Republican district to Democrat. And you are the first woman and mother ever to represent Michigan's 3rd district in Congress.
First woman and mother in all of West Michigan history, not just my district. First woman in history to represent my district. Only the second woman in history for all of West Michigan, which is the entire western half of the state. It's pretty remarkable. We've only ever had one other woman, a Republican. That was when Eisenhower was president.
Well, many people would be like, they don't even know how long ago that was. But anyways, I want to say thank you. And I am so glad that you were that first, which should have been maybe 30 or 40 years ago, but we got to start first somewhere. And I just want to welcome you for Capital Coffee Connection. We both have a little espresso.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. And one day we're going to sit in a real coffee shop. But for today, drink this and think we're really just hanging out at your local coffee shop.
I love those. Thank you so much for having me, Liz. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit. Your family is from, you have 4 generations of family from Grand Rapids, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, your grandparents like literally grew up where you're raising your boys.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about that and what it was like to grow up in Grand Rapids, and just what that city and obviously what Michigan is to you.
Yeah, it's home. And that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to run, why I knew that I would be a good leader and a good fit, because, this is where I was born and raised. This is where my family was raised. I have seen the change that has sort of taken place throughout West Michigan over generations.
Yeah.
It's in my blood, and it's really special just to be connected to a land and a place. To know that, when my kids are riding their bike around the block, it's the same place where, my dad would have ridden his bike over at his grandparents' house, where my grandma and grandpa did as well.
And what was school like back for you? And do you have any special teacher or experience that still sticks with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So West Michigan is a pretty conservative Dutch Christian Reformed enclave. And, I think that helps to understand why we haven't had too many women leaders coming out, the more traditional church style, which didn't allow women to be ordained until a couple decades ago. We have never seen women from our community rise up and take on these leadership positions. My mom was hugely influential to me. My family actually was not very political in any way, but my mom was a leader in our church, which was pretty new and touchy at the time.
Right.
And really service was at the heart of what really drove my family. She was a public school teacher, and she gave her life to her students and their families, opened her heart, our home, sometimes in very literal ways, bringing to her students. And she worked at a pretty high poverty elementary school, and seeing a need, responding to it was the example that I was always shown, whether it was kids needing a place to stay, if a parent had been arrested or was going through a hard time, falling on homelessness, people who needed a car. My parents helped them get one. It was an example that was shown to me all through growing up, and I think is really a deep part of the West Michigan service-oriented ethos.
I love it. And see, again, those are the things I would know.
Yeah.
And that you can't read that on a webpage.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Talk about like first jobs you had, because you didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be you were 16 and said, I'm going to be a politician.
Oh my goodness. It was
What
one of the
kind of,
last
like,
things
jobs that
from
were,
my
like,
mind. Yes.
fun jobs.
My very first job was working at the local Dutch bakery, Ida's Pastry Shop, working the counter, selling the cinnamon rolls after school.
Sounds really good.
Yes, exactly. Metabolism was much different back then. Could eat all the cookies I wanted.
Yeah.
And that was just such a fun job. Really.
Is Ida still there?
It is.
Wow.
It is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and that's really fun to, stop back in every once in a while. So.
That's a good job. And I always feel like retail, anytime you have to have customer service, it's a good experience.
It is. And it's a great way to, stay in touch with the community and, hear what's going on.
Yeah. And you mentioned already about faith, because faith is something that's important in terms of obviously seeing your parents, giving back, especially your mom, and probably your grandparents and such. But how does that feel for you, and what do you do with that? And is that part of what led you to public service? It's a big question. And then with your kids, because we'll talk about your kids in a minute, but being a mom,
right.
and what does that how does that work all together?
Yeah, absolutely. My faith is what grounds me, keeps me motivated. It is my North Star. I think with a lot of Democrats, there can be discomfort talking about your faith, especially your Christian faith, because it's, it has been appropriated in really negative ways in our culture today, and I think has a lot of negative associations with it. But, I have found that a lot of people in our community have felt that what is happening in the political world today in the name of faith was so at odds with what we were really taught about loving your neighbor as yourself, compassion, justice, welcoming the stranger, opening your heart and your home to, the poor and the outcast. Again, justice for the marginalized. And realizing that my community was open to something else, wanted to hear a different version of how our faith could be expressed in public life. It's not about implementing strictly Christian policy ideas.
Yeah.
It's about allowing your faith to guide you to service, which I don't know anything that is a greater act of service than working as a public servant in elected office.
Yeah.
It's not exorbitant pay, it's long hours.
And being away from home, and we'll talk about the kids in a sec, being away from your kids and your husband.
Exactly. So,
but you believe in what you do.
I absolutely believe in what I do. And, I still every day start my day with prayer. I keep a running list of, when I'm talking to constituents or keeping, making phone calls and I hear about someone who's having a hard time or having an issue, I write it down in a prayer book. And when I start my day, I read through those names and I think about those people, and it's a really helpful reminder and a grounding of why I do this very hard work.
First, that's beautiful. And I also think it's a grounding of why we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Regardless of necessarily the political, and it's very important, but like just that concept, and I keep going, love thy neighbor as thyself, and it's like we have really religion and just society, I think, lost touch of what that really means.
Yeah.
And I think the more we talk about it, and you did say it, like people are maybe hesitant to speak about it, but I think the more we speak about it and others do, and we encourage others, whatever their faith is and whatever their belief is,
that's exactly
but that
right.
And we'll get to it later on about that positive energy being shared.
Yeah. It's been such a positive experience. I was so nervous to talk about my faith openly at first. I didn't want people to think, I was expressing this idea that there is only one way, right, to do things. But, talking just about it as this is my faith. This is how it works for me. And we should have a society where all people should feel free to be able to practice their own religion, to express their own individuality, their religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs.
It's all okay.
It's all okay. That is literally what our country was founded on.
Yes.
And I think it has been, as we've seen a movement, quote unquote, in the name of freedom in recent years, to sort of take back our country, be it book banning or whatever. What offends me as a religious person is that a lot of times this precludes my own freedom of expression and religion and how I feel I'm called to live it out. As well as, whether you're Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, there can't just be one idea of how to express your religious beliefs in this country. That's what the First Amendment is all about.
Yes, it is. So now let's talk about a husband.
Yes.
Jesse.
Yeah.
He's a professor. And I'd love for us to know kind of what he does as a professor. But you have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And they are teenagers?
They're 10 and 13.
Okay, so they're almost teenager and teenager.
Yep.
And how do you first balance it, because you are on the road a lot and you've got to be in DC?
Yep.
And how do they deal with it as kids? And how does Jesse, and how do you make it all work? Because Jesse has to be pretty special to do what he's doing. And I mean, to support a leader either way, husbands or wives. I think that's impressive.
Yeah, he is, he's just incredible. He was the first person who encouraged me to run.
I love it.
And, this is, I love this story because it's about the tenderness of him as a dad, and really about the humanity at the heart of what we're dealing with.
Right.
And, not getting into the policy of it, but when I was an attorney working in the Justice Department, and really saw a lot of policies, particularly around family separation, the Muslim travel ban, that were deeply at odds with my my own moral compass, my commitment to protect and defend the Constitution. I took a stand, left, and that's when we moved back home to West Michigan. I started working at a legal aid organization where we were representing every child that was separated from their parent at the border and brought to Michigan for foster care. And one summer, we're working 14-hour days. You ask how my kids are dealing with it. They're used to mom working hard for a cause. And we were dealing with family separation. Jesse came to see me, bring me an iced coffee one afternoon. It was going to be a late night. And he's a pretty stoic guy, but we were walking through the waiting room back to my office, and I was just chattering about, the kids got to go to this practice and that practice. I made dinner. It's in the fridge, whatever. And he kind of trails off, and he wasn't responding. And we get to my office, and I turn, and I look at him, and his eyes are just filled with tears. We had just walked through a waiting room where there were 3 children waiting on a bench. They were about our kids' age at the time, and he just said, you see this on the news.
And they were all alone.
Horrific. And they were alone because they had been taken from their parents.
Yeah.
They didn't know where their parents were, didn't speak any English, had no idea where they were. Yeah. They were all dressed in their Sunday best because they had to go to court for a deportation hearing, young children. And he said, these kids are the same age as our boys, as James and Wesley. We have to do something about this. And, it was him and his partnership and his belief that we could really make a difference in our community.
I like that.
And, he's just been there for me every step of the way. And he's such an incredible dad to our boys. And I think about them coming of age. In some ways, it is a hard time to be running as, your children are entering adolescence. But at the same time, I had the opportunity to have a very flexible work schedule when they were young. I was able to be a very attentive and physically attentive mom, even though I worked hard. And now as they're getting older, they're really forming a strong bond with their dad as they're figuring out how to be young men. Yeah. And so it's really it works well for our family. Yeah. I'm able to FaceTime them. Yeah. We make collaborative Spotify playlists together as a family, so we're all listening to the same things. Yeah. And we build habits and routines in that really keep us all connected.
I love that. Okay, but then the only person we didn't talk about, the only living being in your home that we need to just mention, because I know is very important, is Smokey. You want to tell everyone about Smokey?
Yeah, well, I was going to correct you to say I actually have 3 sons.
Yes, okay.
Yes, James, Wesley, and Smokey. Okay. My fur baby.
Yes.
Yes.
When did you get your fur baby, Smokey?
Yeah, we got him shortly, pandemic, middle of the pandemic. And we actually sadly had our pup of 12 years that my husband and I had before kids. He passed away of cancer. And then we were able to bring Smokey into the family. And he is mischievous and fun, and he really has a personality all his own.
I love it. It adds really good character to the family.
He's waiting there for me. I have a late flight that I take back from DC, and sometimes I don't get back till closer to midnight.
But Smokey's waiting.
Smokey is waiting right there.
I love it.
And Jesse always waits up for me too, but Smokey's is the face I see in the window when the car pulls up.
I love it. That's great. Could you tell us a little bit about what is the best advice you ever received and maybe the worst advice you ever received?
Well, since we're talking about parenting and family, this is sort of top of mind for me because, we mentioned at the start of the show, I am the first mother in history to be sent to Congress to represent West Michigan in Congress, and we're sort of setting a new example of how to do these things. And so, when I was running, I had so many people tell me, you can't do this. You can't do this as a mom. Think about your family. You're going to be harming your family. And, that sticks with you as you might be experiencing your own maternal guilt and you think, oh, how could I possibly do this? And that dovetails really nicely into the best advice I ever received, which is our boy's pediatrician when I was a young mom trying to figure out breastfeeding, just terrified that I was doing it all wrong and I was going to mess my children up forever. And she said, Hillary, there is no way to be a perfect mother, but there are a million different ways to be a really good one.
Oh, that's it's correct.
Yeah. And it has really stuck with me. And I think, I think I am a really good mom and I have a great relationship with my boys. And I'm so proud of the example that I'm setting for them of all that a woman and mother can be.
I love it. It's very important. Yeah. What is your favorite meal?
Oh my goodness. I would say almost anything that I eat sitting around the kitchen table with my guys as soon as I get home. I love to cook and I cook a lot of different things. So we're going to be coming up on fall soon, and I make a great lentil soup with homemade bread, and
that sounds really
that's one
good.
of my favorites. Yeah,
the homemade bread sounds great too.
Yeah.
What kind is it usually?
It's the no knead, the 24-hour. I'm easy.
But it's like
peasy.
doughy on the inside and a little
crusty
crunchy on the outside.
Oh yeah, crusty on the outside, doughy on the inside. Yeah.
Sounds yummy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Favorite music?
Oh my goodness. My boys often joke, mom will either be listening to hymns or hip hop when she pulls up in the van for practice. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's all the best.
I think it surprises a lot of people that
that you love hip hop.
That I love hip hop. Yeah.
I love hip hop too, and I think it's just the best energy, and it just goes. It
just
keeps going.
We were at a Democratic women's event, and all of the freshman women were there with some of the older members, and we had to go around, and it was like, say Aretha Franklin or Megan Thee Stallion, and I shouldn't have gone first because I answered honestly, big Megan Thee Stallion fan, and everyone was like record scratch.
Okay, but that also tells us that we have new energy and younger people, different ideas that are entering into our public life.
That's exactly
and
right.
Everybody's welcome, but we do need new energy.
We do.
And that's a metaphor for it, if you ever found one. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Very strong woman-forward music.
Yeah,
you need it in Congress.
Yeah. Aretha Franklin's amazing, but Megan Thee Stallion is just, I get it. I get it. Okay, if you had to pick your favorite household chore, what would that be?
Oh man, I actually love doing laundry.
It
is, it's just, it's quiet, it's contemplative. I can feel really organized, and ever since my boys were little, I love just folding their little clothes, and it's kind of a fun way to connect with them as well. So
yeah. And let's say your family was going to travel somewhere. All of you were going to go somewhere that maybe is like just the top of your list of incredible places to go. Where would that be?
I this is going to sound contrived, but it is so true. Anywhere in Michigan. We have the most beautiful coastlines. We love going to Michigan's Upper Peninsula every summer, and it's just so remote. It gets so dark. You can see at night. You can see all the stars.
Lights are out.
Yeah. Because it's more remote. We go camping, and you can see the northern lights from up there.
Oh wow, really?
We're a big fishing family.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah, it's great fishing up there too.
Good.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
So when it gets really stressful and things are just rough, and like, how do you recharge? What do you do to get back to, Hillary feeling good?
Jesse is a big part of that. When I get back from DC, usually we will sit out on our front porch no matter the weather. I mean, we're talking Michigan. It gets real cold.
Yes.
We've got a little buddy heater and big blankets, and we'll just sit out there and be outside and breathe the fresh air. And it's a great way to connect and be back together. You know, as I said too, every morning I really do. I have a practice of journaling and praying, and it's a great way to center and ground myself.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to play this game, which I think is kind of fun, and it's kiss, marry, kill, but we do kiss, marry, trash because we don't kill.
Okay.
And you're going to get 3 things, and then you're going to say what you would marry, what you would kiss, and what you would trash.
Okay.
And I've done this with some of your colleagues, and many of them have played and had a great time, and then some have chosen not to get, not to have to make a tough decision.
Yeah.
And they're really easy ones.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is hanging out with your kids. Ping pong. So again, kiss, marry, trash.
Yeah.
Ping pong, miniature golf, bowling.
Oh, okay. This is hard because I actually really do like all of these things. But I would say Mary's got to be mini golf. We love that. Kiss, bowling. Trash is ping pong, but only because I'm really competitive and they can already beat me. So
I hear you. I have kids that are, my son can already beat me. Yeah. Desserts, chocolate chip cookies, ice cream, apple pie.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I could trash the ice cream, the vanilla ice cream. Did you say vanilla?
Any ice cream, yeah.
Oh, any ice cream. I mean, I really love ice cream, but I think it would have to be that. I mean, I'm a Michigan girl. I can never get rid of apple pie, and I just love chocolate chip cookies. So marry, chocolate chip cookies, kiss, apple pie, and sadly trash ice cream.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
but hard.
I know.
I might have to go back in the trash and pick it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Let's do seasons.
Okay.
Summer, fall, winter.
Yeah. Oh, this is hard. As I mentioned, we are year-round anglers in our house, and we just love every season. Mary has got to be fall. There's nothing like a Michigan fall. They start warm, and then by the end, we're lighting that first fire in our wood stove. I think I'm... How in the world do you choose?
You don't have to.
I'm going to have to pass because,
Okay.
the nothing like swimming in Lake Michigan all summer long, camping, and then we love to ski in the winter.
So that's the best answer.
We got to pass. Yeah,
Okay,
I can't
good.
choose.
Relaxing. Netflix, reading, meditating.
Oh, okay. Mary is got to be meditating. Kiss would be reading, and I mean, trash would be Netflix, but
you still love Netflix.
I really love a good Netflix binge.
I'm
Yeah,
with you.
I've gotta. Yeah, my husband and I, we love just watching TV, and we do it with the boys
It's a
as
nice
well.
family time
It is.
together.
It
Yeah.
is.
And
Yeah.
Netflix is,
Yeah.
Okay, this is an easy one. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, I am a huge breakfast eater. That is Mary, easily. And lunch, I always get hungry during the day, so that's got to be Kiss. Honestly, I could go without dinner almost any day of the week.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to watch a movie, romantic, comedy, thriller.
Thriller.
Mary?
Thriller is Mary. Kiss, a comedy, and I'm not a huge romantic, so we could trash those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Food types, Mexican, Japanese, Italian.
Ooh. Mexican Mary, for sure. We eat it all the time in our house. Family favorite. I would say Kiss, Japanese, and trash Italian, although, it's the carbs. It's
I know. You love it.
But we do love our pasta bolognese in our house.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you that one. Okay, so I get the pasta bolognese,
Yeah.
and that's one of the ones I ask, which is which pasta?
Yeah.
Fusilli, penne, spaghetti.
Oh, penne, trash, spaghetti, Kiss, fazoule, Mary.
You'd marry that
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good. And then also Michigan, maybe this is an easy one, but basketball, baseball, football.
I'm going to have to pass. I'm the daughter of a sports writer and was a student athlete myself, and my boys play all of the above. So
What was your sport? And what was your sport?
basketball, and
you played
I
that.
ran track.
Oh, okay.
Was the mile runner. Oh yeah,
Yeah. Do you still run?
I do. Yeah.
And do you have enough time to run?
I still run about 3 times a week, and it's another sort of lifeline to sanity.
Saves you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And what sports do your boys play? I'm just curious. Or what don't they play?
Basketball, don't they play is more the answer. So yeah, basketball, baseball, cross country, track, soccer,
Everything.
everything.
And I'm sure, like, as the mom, it's like just to go watch them is just joy.
It's pure joy. It is so fun.
So that leads us to our last question, which is
great.
about joy.
Yes.
So I ask each person, which is a question about joy. What is joy? How do you define joy?
Yeah.
And you've already spoken a lot about it through your faith.
Yeah.
But I think if we could finish and expand upon it, you've talked about how much that means to your life. So I think this is an easy, beautiful way for us to end. Can you talk about what joy means to you, what brings you joy, and the idea of you sharing that joy with others because you're joyful, and what kind of an effect that has on others?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The name Hillary means joy, hilarity. And I find that is just such a dominant characteristic of mine. Finding the joy, even on hard days, is what motivates me. There is so much to fret about right now in our world, but there are so many incredible moments of joy. Just last week, we were able to recover service medals posthumously for a veteran who served in Vietnam. His mother, a Gold Star mother, our office learned that she had never received his Purple Heart, had never received his other medals. This man was a hero.
Yes.
They were returning from a mission. He ran away from they were started to take on sniper fire. He ran away to draw the fire onto himself while his troops took cover.
Yeah, they were saved.
They were saved because of him. And we had a service and a ceremony. At this ceremony, individuals who were part of his troop that shipped out from Grand Rapids came back. They hadn't seen each other in 50 years. There is so much joy in being able to provide that and do that for this community. And that work continues, even despite all of the obstacles that we are facing as a country right now. Connecting with that joy is what keeps me going. And, as we started talking about, that example of giving back,
right.
That I saw my parents exemplify from such a young age, is what brings me joy as well, and what I try to live out in this work that I do every day.
Well, first, thank you. It's a beautiful story. It's really not much to say after hearing what this person did.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for doing sacrifice for others.
Yeah.
And thank your family for letting you do that, your boys and Jesse. And I just want to say thank you, and please continue talking about your faith and your power as a woman.
Yeah.
Because if I've learned anything today, it's this understanding that you are a pioneer as a woman in your part of America.
Yeah.
And that faith is something that drives you. And we need more and more of women who are willing to share some of the most vulnerable things and authentic things so that others can learn from that. So thank you for being open to having that conversation today. And I had a great time.
Thank
I
you.
loved learning about you in Grand Rapids and Michigan.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.